All right, welcome to Five Guys on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me, Ethan J. Skolnick, in the Five Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. We're going to talk Dolphins today. We're sponsored here, as we often are, by our friends at Water Cleanup of Florida. From the first leak all the way through the process, if you've got any kind of problems in your home, water, mold, any of that, they are your one-stop cleanup shop. Reach out to them at the very beginning before it gets worse. But if it does get worse, they can work with you on the rebuild, the remediation, the mitigation, and everything that needs to happen after that as you go with your insurance company. So check them out. Based in Boca Raton, service the entire Tri-County area. It's Water Cleanup of Florida. We always say this. If you've got the schmutz, they got the guts. And reach out to them and find them at WCUFL.com. More than 100 five-star reviews on Google. All right, Alex, the Miami Dolphins made a signing yesterday. Ty Huntley. Could people – I just have one request. Could people stop referring to him as Pro Bowler Ty Huntley?
He did get in as an alternate, but he did get in.
It's kind of like if in the year that Napoleon Dynamite came out, did you see that movie? Excellent movie, by the way.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so John Hader, I believe, was the lead actor in that. It's as if every actor declined, could not make it to the Oscars that day, so they had to give someone the Academy Award.
He got an Oscar for that?
He did not. I'm saying this would be similar to that essentially everybody else declined to come. So, okay, who's available? This guy who has, nine NFL starts, right? Isn't he 3-6? He's 3-6, right? Okay, so
our problems are all solved now. Let's
stop with that. I don't know if Omar was doing that sarcastically or intentionally. I'm not really sure, but people did call him on that, so I'll call him on that too. He's not a Pro Bowler. He's not even a starter in the NFL, and he's not a starter this week. It's going to be Skylar Thompson. And I don't know if I was too hard on the Dolphins, so you can let me know. All right, I'm not sure. I don't like that they were in this position, and I know as someone in you who needed Tua to prove it, and I know you spoke of that repeatedly. And then the contract was given to him after the 17 game. I guess playing 17 games and leading the league in passing was considered to be enough to prove it. But if you're comfortable enough in your quarterback, that you're going to pay him that kind of money, bring in a good second quarterback so that you're not it's not like you're avoiding competitions and narrative. There wasn't going to be competition anyway. Right. But just it has felt like they've it's like every other position, you try to get the best players you can. At the quarterback position, it's like sometimes teams, they try not to get anybody who's going to be perceived as a threat in any way, whether it's in the room or with the media or with the fans. And so they're in a three-year process with Skylar Thompson. They had Mike White. And yet it's like, I think we all kind of assume Skylar's going to get beaten out by game 2. Now, if you feel that way about your backup quarterback, why is he your backup quarterback? And then McDaniel has to come out yesterday and say, this is a depth move. Do you know what I mean? Okay, I get it, but I think we all expect, when I polled this, who's going to be starting in 2 weeks? Not the game in Seattle, but the game in Tennessee, against Tennessee. Who's going to be starting was 48% said Huntley, 22% did Tua, and then 20, or whatever the remaining. My math's not good here, but the remaining was actually not this week, but the week after. The remaining was actually for Skylar. And when Skylar's third in that poll, I think it shows the lack of public confidence. So I hope he proves me wrong, Alex. I do. I think there are some physical tools there. But the processing is not very fast with him, and this is a processing offense. So that's what concerns me about it.
I mean, we had this conversation during the preseason and I know that you and I obviously were not married to the Ryan Tannehill idea, because I don't think Ryan Tannehill has the types of characteristics as a quarterback to fit this offense. So that wasn't a specific name that we wanted, but we wanted someone of that ilk. We wanted someone who has experience, preferably someone who fits the offense a little bit better, who has, more than 9 NFL starts under their belt, who could have come in here and been the backup. Because guess what? I hate that this is happening to Tua again.
Right.
It made my stomach turn when I saw him on the field and in that, that fencing position again. It was like I was reliving a nightmare from 2 years ago. I hate that he's in this position, but whether it be another concussion or something else, because he's had injuries throughout his career, you could predict. And it's also, he's not the only quarterback who's been injured before. This stuff is going to happen. This stuff can't happen in this league. And when you're talking about a team that, And there was a lot of other things that didn't look good this past Thursday. So I'm not necessarily saying the Dolphins are elite quarterbacking away from winning a Super Bowl, but when you do have a team that has high expectations, you would think you'd be better equipped with a backup quarterback, that if you have to be without your top guy for a few games or several games, that you can be in a better position to win, because this can get ugly really fast for the Dolphins, Ethan. But I'll circle back to something I said a little while ago. At the same time, it's like, let's not pretend like Tua left the game early and then things got bad from there. When Tua's in the game, he throws 3 interceptions. The Dolphins were getting manhandled by Buffalo. We didn't think that would happen. I think you and I predicted the Dolphins to win that game. And, losing Tua is not the reason why they lost it. He played the entire game. They still would have lost that football game. And so it's like, I'm frustrated from many different angles. And then, I feel like obviously Tua going down is like, that's the big headline coming out of the game. I get it. But at the same time, I think the fact that Tua is hurt is distracting some people from the fact that even when he was in the game, the Dolphins were getting their asses beat. And that's really discouraging after all the work that Chris Greer has put into building this roster, that they're still not close.
Well, that's the first part of it, yes. And they're still not close to their single biggest rival. But then it comes down to this again. Like, you and I did an episode specifically, Hello Cap for Life. You and I did an episode specifically where we talked about backup quarterback. This was the whole thing about, should they go sign Tannehill? We talked about this before training camp was over, during the preseason games. We are doomed as usual. During the preseason games, we talked about that are you comfortable with the backup quarterback situation? And how could you be? And I said specifically, this is not about Tua missing the whole season. He misses the whole season, anybody's doomed, right? Like, there's a line I saw this, Tom Moore said. He was the offensive coordinator with the Colts. And I guess John Gruden asked him once, said, why don't you practice much with the backups? He says, because if 18 goes down, that was Peyton Manning, we don't practice being fucked. Okay? Okay? Like, if you're going to miss the entire season, okay. But, like, if this turns out to be what it looks like it could turn into, and we got into a whole thing on 5 on the Floor about the comparisons with the Bosch situation, with the Zoe situation, we don't know. Like, that, Tua may want to play, but then if the doctors tell him ultimately, second opinions, he can't play, then he's got a lot of money riding on not playing. It's better for him not to play. And then there's the whole other issue where there's the other level of the team, where the team gets involved at a certain point, and there may be liability issues, and we don't know what those are. I don't know what the insurance is that they have on him. I'm not sure. Okay, I know that Barry has alluded to some of this, but again, some of this is not public record. So that's the thing. Like, we don't know what level this is going to get to. But either way, like, it looks like it's trending towards Tua missing a few weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the exact scenario that we talked about when I talked about the 2002 season. And I did this on Starting 5-2, where Jay Fiedler missed 6 games and it sunk the season because Ray Lucas was not up to the task. Okay. And they went 2-4 in the games that he missed. And so they ended up 9-7. They still had a chance at the end, but they lost the last 2 games after Jay came. Jay got them 2 wins, and then they lost the last 2 in Minnesota and New England. We're headed towards the same situation. Like, whenever Tua comes back, because they did not address the backup quarterback situation properly, it's very possible that they go, say, 2-4, 1-3, 1-4 in these games. And then you're looking at, like, being a 2-5 team. And not only is there going to be a rush to get him back then from the public and the media and everything else, which is the worst of all scenarios, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a rush, and then there may not be enough anyway. It may not be enough anyway, just like it wasn't enough when Jay came back that year, just like it wasn't enough in the 16-17 season when they started 11-30. I'm talking about the Heat, started 11-30 and then went 30-11, but they missed out by 1 game. When you're scrambling to come back from a situation like that, it's almost impossible. So the question is,
and you really, in this case, like, they can't rush him back, can they? Because, we all remember 2 years ago how bad and listen, from where I sit, it seemed like they mishandled Tua 2 years ago, right? From the way that, the whole, when he had those multiple concussions, when they, rushed him back from that Sunday to Thursday, but they claimed he wasn't concussed on the Sunday against Buffalo. And then we saw what happened on Thursday night against Cincinnati. Like, the Dolphins organization, they were criticized. And listen, I know Mike McDaniel cares. Like, I know he has a deep compassion for Tua. But still, it looked like they mishandled it 2 years ago. Like they cannot rush him back this time around. The PR would just be terrible.
Well, I agree. And everybody's going to be watching now. It's not just the PR, but it's the medical professionals. It's everyone. And so they have to be enormously careful with the situation and probably have to hold him out a game longer than they'd even like to. And it just comes back to this. We'll get to this on the side. Can they salvage their season? They're built to play with a certain quarterback. Now, they brought in a guy who's right-handed, who scrambles, who's more of like, he's like, I've used this the other day, so I steal. He's like Timu. He's like Timu Lamar Jackson, basically. So I'm stealing that from somebody because I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but I'm just saying, like, he's not. He can win you a series in a game, right? Like, he can make a play. He has some elusiveness. His accuracy's okay. His percentages are okay. But there's a reason he hasn't been a starter in the league. And again, you're not going to find a lot of great backup quarterbacks. That's just the nature of it. I mean, look, the Giants can't find a passable starting quarterback. There are lots of teams along those lines. But I just don't think this is a 3-year project with Skylar Thompson. All I got to say is this, okay? Mike McDaniel's here to stay for at least the next couple of years. He's at the extension through 2028. All right, Tua's, we don't know what's going to happen with him. Chris Greer, we don't know what is going to happen. But I will just say this. If Skylar can't hold the starting job now for 4 to 5 weeks, can we move on? Can we move on? Right? Like, because you're in year 3. So, like, this is what he's there to do. Seems like a nice guy. Like I said, has some ability. But if he can't, I know in Buffalo he made some plays, he made some mistakes, right? They probably weren't winning that game with Tua anyway against that Bills team in those conditions. But I'm just saying, like, okay, one more chance. But if he's beaten out by Huntley in week 2, regardless, you need to draft a guy or you need to sign a guy. You need to get a veteran. And it does feel to me, as we go to our sponsor, it feels to me like the whole Ryan Fitzpatrick thing changed their course on this, because it's like, we don't want that kind of controversy again. And Fitzpatrick was a guy who could start games and win games for you. He could also lose games for you.
And it's so weird. Like, and I see some Dolphin fans who are like on that rhetoric as well, because I always see people say, like, when you're looking for a backup quarterback, but like make sure it's someone who doesn't like challenge Tua or create a quarterback like, first of all, if you really believe in Tua, why are you worried about that? And second of all, it's a National Football League, not the National Feelings League. We're trying to win games. We're trying to get the best players out there possible. So don't talk to me about, not having someone who may be able to actually, God forbid, push your starting quarterback in practice. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. But what's not ridiculous, though, is getting some of your memorabilia, but a lot of your jerseys from a Jerseys 305. By the way, Panthers training camp, Stanley Cup champions, they open tomorrow, 8 o'clock. I'm going to be out there with Alex Baumgartner. So we will be out. That's a team. That's the best team in South Florida right now. Well, no, the team you cover is pretty damn good too. I'll give you that. Best professional team. Well, those guys are paid now too. They're professional also. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, they literally hired a hired gun for a year before he's the number 1 overall pick of the draft. But look, I'm not, no shade on that.
He's the best quarterback in town. Cam Ward, best in town.
Well, he's mobile. Yes, he's active. Yes, he's the best quarterback in town. Well, should we do that episode? Would you draft if you were the Dolphins? Would you draft? Oh. Yeah, I know. All right, I know you would. All right, here's our sponsor, Jerseys 305. Hey, it's Ethan Skolnick for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've got a great new sponsor that fits with us perfectly. It's called Jerseys305.com. That's Jerseys305.com. This is your home for dead stock and vintage jerseys from the Heat, Panthers, Dolphins, Marlins, and the other local teams. Their mission was born from a passion for wearing jerseys of the old styles and the past players. Jerseys 305 aims to make every fan stand out from the crowd with unique pieces that you don't commonly see anymore. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, but not today. And Jerseys 305 was created by the fans, for the fans. They're diehards just like you. In fact, they're probably listening to this episode right now. So check them out, Jerseys 305, their partnership with 5 Reasons Sports, celebrating with a 10% discount on the next purchase using the code 5 at checkout. Unlock your exclusive savings on the entire vintage collection. All right, so let's answer the question here. That's a very simple question you posed here in the title. Can they salvage their season?
No. And listen, that's what we got a long way to go. That's what my gut tells me. But a couple things, like, I know a win is a win, and the Dolphins pulled off a comeback week 1 at home against Jacksonville. Jacksonville pissed that game away. I'm sorry. And then,
Mm-hmm.
some of my concerns coming out of that game were put under the microscope and really exposed against Buffalo. And again, like, I know the unfortunate thing that happened to Tua distracted from the fact that the Dolphins were getting their butts kicked even when Tua was in the game. He threw 3 interceptions.
Right.
But still, like, the Dolphins are a lot better with Tua, and that's going to be made clear for the next however many weeks that he misses. Okay. So, and also, how can I not be discouraged when, like, I still see the amount, because we thought Buffalo got worse from last year, and the Dolphins at worst, didn't get any worse. If not, we thought they maybe even got a little bit better during the offseason. But there's still plenty of distance between Miami and Buffalo. And the one we just had was the home game against the Bills. That was supposed to be the one you were going to get if you were going to split the series. So I am very discouraged. I'm, based on what I've seen on the field so far, I'm not even sure the Dolphins sneak into the playoffs this year. There's probably, still some hope coming out of a relatively soft division, but I'm not convinced they even get in this year. So what my gut tells me heading into week 3 is they don't salvage.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's too difficult. I think you look at the AFC. I don't even think Kansas City's that good, but they pulled out a couple of wins here to start the season. Baltimore's better than Miami. Houston's better than Miami. I just look up and down the conference, and there's some soft spots as well. The win over Jacksonville may be meaningful for a wild card spot down the road potentially, but you're not winning the division, I don't think, under these circumstances. The Jets, I'm not a huge believer in the Jets. You know that. But again, if you don't have your quarterback, you don't have anything. That's really where you are in this league. And I just think I come back to this. They had to have somebody who's capable of running the same system. Even if the guy is not at Tua's level, they've got to find, if Tua's going to be their guy and they're going to commit to him, injuries aside, all the rest of this, they have to have somebody who at least can process in a similar kind of way. Maybe not quite the level. And I don't see it. It's a shame because I actually think the defense has played well. I think Weaver has done some good things with them. Jalen Ramsey has not been good, which is disappointing. But I do think the majority of the guys on defense have shown up so far this season. I thought David Long played well in the last game. There's bright spots there. So I think they can keep them in some games. But unfortunately, I think they're going to lose. I think there was some 16-13 games, honestly, going forward. And I just think, again, if Tua comes back at 2-5, he's rushed to come back. You just have no margin for error. So I just don't see it. This comes in for Cap for Life. I'm giving up 2 invested. We got to get out of last place. Me and 2 agree on one thing. We can't go out like this. I'm with you. Look, I want the season to be successful. It's better for everybody. And there was a lot of hope, but you're right. It's not even the 2 or 3 picks. It's that, because I really think one of the picks was really his fault. It was some of the things that went on during that game. Okay. And it's like, what were Waddle and Hill doing off the field? And you're throwing to DeBose on a 3rd and 14 or whatever it was. Why is Robbie Chosen still in the picture? Like, now you still don't have he doesn't know what route to run most of the time. Like, is Odell ever going to play for this team? So they don't have any size outside a receiver. The offensive line, our guy Eric Smith thinks they've been better than people think, and he is an offensive line expert, but a lot of the metrics have been like 31st in the league right now. It's just, there were issues in terms of they basically got their asses kicked, like you said, by Buffalo, and that shouldn't be happening at this stage. And so I do think the defense will keep them in games. They might steal one. I think Tennessee is beatable. Seattle is beatable. But I would, if they got a split in the next 2, I think you'd be ecstatic. And I don't know that they're going to get. Also, they've had distractions this year. The Tyreek thing, now the Tua thing. It's a lot. So we'll see what happens. And more coverage here on the channel. Inside Leverage on Wednesday. And then also we'll have Pulse of Fins Nation tonight. Tonight is Tuesday night. All right, again, I'll be at Panthers tomorrow. Get you caught up on all that. 2 weeks from Heat training camp. 2 weeks from Heat training camp. Not even at this point. And I'll be down there in the Bahamas. So my guy, me and
I was about to ask where that. So that's a good time. You have a great time in the Bahamas.
Yeah, on the 5 reasons. I had to consult my boss at 5 reasons, and 4:31 a night is not happening at the Baha Mar. So I'll be prominent at the Courtyard Marriott down the street. But I will,
whatever works.
I will be at the practices. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Jersey's 305. Again, Prize Picks, we always mention them as well. Use the code 5, FIVE. Thank you, Cap.